being in your late 20s is truly one of the most difficult stages of our lives, and it's probably why you clicked on this video to begin with. And the reason why is because I believe this is the stage in our lives where all of our idealized or romanticized notions or views around what life should be like fall apart. We begin our 20s by viewing life through rose-colored glasses, at least most of us, and that quickly turns into disillusionment by the time we are at our late 20s. And the reason why I think this happens is because most of us avoid the uncomfortable and unpleasant aspects of aging and growing and transforming, that we don't want to swallow some bitter pills that come along with that process. I'm currently 28, about to turn 29, and I can't even believe that because I swear I was 21 years old yesterday. But my late 20s have been marked by both the most challenging but also the most enriching moments in my life. And I truly believe that those enriching moments only came from the difficulties, not just experiencing the difficulties, but really sitting down and learning from them and then implementing the lessons going forward in my life. I really feel like the crux of the reason why a lot of people are disillusioned in their 20s is because they're hanging on to that naivety around how they think their life should have panned out, rather than accepting the way things actually are. And in this video, I am going to go through the most bitter pills that I had to swallow in my late 20s that have truly made my life so much better. And I really hope that this helps anyone watching this. So starting off with a bang, the first most bitter pill I had to swallow in my late 20s is that no one is going to save you. You're only going to save yourself. In our childhood, teenage, and even early 20 years, there's generally a clear life path that most of us follow. So I guess going to school, graduating, going to university, then getting your first part-time or casual job. And a lot of those things I feel like are expected and kind of given to us. And most of us don't question it. We just kind of go along with the ride. We don't have to really think about what we want. Like, yes, a lot of us have an idea of what our dream job is, what we want to do in life, but these early stages, we really aren't forced to make drastic decisions because there's a lot of societal norms in kind of going down these initial paths in your early years. But after this, it's really all fair game. And what I mean by this is that there's really no one to hold our hand. Like, once you, for example, finish university, you've now gotten your first adult or big girl, big boy job, you're really forced to be independent and start making the big decisions for yourself. We have to start thinking about and start making decisions around how our life is going to go beyond that. And yes, people might give us advice, might give us tips, but ultimately we're the only decision makers because no one can force us to do these things. We really have to do them for ourselves. We really have to cultivate our habits, our self-discipline to really make traction and start getting where we want to be. Otherwise, we start feeling like we're fading into the background of life. No one is there to protect us from ourselves or hold us accountable. It is all on us. And that is a very scary concept, especially if you've grown up being spoon-fed or felt like your life was already somewhat pre-planned. Parental pressures or parental aspirations around, you know, going to university, starting to work. The most confronting thing is when there's no one pushing you anymore and holding you accountable. You're either going to have to do that yourself or just stay stagnant and not get to where you want to be in life. So the second bitter pill that I've had to swallow is that no one owes you anything. As William Shakespeare once said, expectation is the root of all heartache. And this quote really exemplifies a very fundamental law in life, in that we can't control others, we can only control ourselves and what our attitudes are and what our actions will be. And this is especially so in our late 20s when all of our friends, for example, start moving in different directions, they start transforming their lives, they get into long-term relationships, they get married, they have children, and friendships change as a result. You drift from people. You might become a bit resentful that people aren't putting the same level of effort that they used to put in. They're not seeing you as much. They're not talking to as much. But that is only going to hurt yourself, because at the end of the day, everyone is living their own lives. Yes, they may have acted a certain way towards you or showed up in a way that you wanted in the past, but people change and you have to accept that. And you can't keep expecting and holding resentment towards others just because they're not giving you what they want. You need to learn how to give yourself those things. And by putting others on a pedestal, you're very much undervaluing yourself. And that is a lot to accept, for sure, because when we are in our teenage years, early 20s, we rely a lot on our friendships, and our friendships are so pivotal in the narrative of our life at the time. And accepting that people are there to add value to your life, but not to fill a void and not to fill something that you feel like you lack within, that's what we need to accept. And speaking of friendships, the next bitter pill that I've had to swallow is that holding on to friendships that no longer serve you is only going to hinder your growth in the long term, or even in the short term. Most of us keep people in our lives because, for instance, we've been friends with them for years. We have a lot of history with them. We've invested a lot of time into those friendships. I guess the memories and positive feelings and emotions that we've shared together. And we can often, as a result, fall into a trap of compromising our own values, our own goals, and our own energy just to salvage those friendships, even though they're no longer serving us. But the truth is, and like I said in the previous point, is that people change. And just because someone was so important to you at one point in time doesn't automatically mean that they're going to play that same importance in the long term. And that is absolutely fine. You can still look back on that friendship with love, with only positivity. By moving on and maybe distancing yourself from that friendship, you're not disrespecting what happened in the past, because what happened in the past has happened and it shaped you, and that's absolutely beautiful. We really have to realize is that just because someone has played a pivotal part in our lives, by holding on to friendships, trying to put so much effort that may not be reciprocated, you burn yourself out, and that really takes your focus away from what you actually want and what nurtures your soul, and attracting the people that you actually want and need in your life, because you're hanging on to this memory and this nostalgia. The fifth bitter pill that I've had to swallow is that time is only getting faster. Remember as a kid when a year used to feel like forever? Now it's literally the next year within a blink of an eye. So stop delaying yourself. Start doing the things that you've always wanted to do, but that you've never done because you've gaslit yourself into thinking that now's not the right time. I'll do it sometime in the future. You have to accept that the best time to have followed your dreams was 10 years ago, and the second best time is right now. So stop waiting. You really do not want to waste your life away, because I know personally I have wasted so much time not doing things I wanted to do because I felt scared or didn't feel confident enough. But the best way to grow and the best way to learn is by just starting them. And they may not end up the way you want them to, but you have nothing to lose, because by not acting, you're not going to create the outcome anyway. The fifth bitter pill I've had to swallow is, and this one really rings close to home, is that materialistic things will not buy you happiness. You start making, I guess, adult money. You start thinking to yourself that you can finally buy that bag, that piece of jewelry, that car that you've always wanted and pined after. And you're convinced that once you secure it or have it, that you're going to feel so much more fulfilled. But the truth is that if you're purchasing things to fill a void within you, that void is only going to become bigger, and you're going to need and want to buy more and more things and still end up even emptier. And that cycle is just going to keep repeating. As long as we're basing our happiness on things that are outside of us, we aren't going to be happy. We're just going to be in that cycle of chasing dopamine, maybe feeling a little bit better for a few days, and then we'll end up feeling even worse. Seventh bitter pill that I've had to swallow is that running away from pain is actually just going to hurt you more in the long run. If you feel pain, and I'm talking about emotional pain, you need to sit with it, nurture it, learn from it, and heal it in order to actually resolve the pain. By distracting yourselves, and you know those people after a relationship, they'll say they're fine, they're so happy, they'll go out clubbing, go out drinking, just chasing short dopamine, and they'll seem happy on the surface for 6 months, and then out of nowhere, they end up depressed and really sad. And that's because those feelings have resurfaced even stronger because they were pushed below the surface. And by accepting the pain and not pushing it away or not resisting it, you're actually letting yourself heal, because you're processing those negative and uncomfortable emotions. And that builds more resilience, where when something else happens in the future, you're aware that you've been able to cope and actually grow and become a better person. And the last bitter pill I had to swallow is that running away from being alone will actually make you lonelier in the long run. Our early 20s are notorious for spending time with others, investing in our friendship groups, going out, speaking to people, and we experience FOMO, the fear of missing out, because we really want to feel like we're sustaining those friendships and not missing out on pivotal social moments. But by never sitting down with ourselves, free from social distractions and from others, we end up never figuring out what it means to live life on our own terms and who we really are to the crux. We end up adopting the values, the interests, the lifestyles of others without actually knowing what we want in life. We'd rather just fit in and be liked by others, but we end up not truly liking ourselves because we don't even know, again, what we really value and what we want out of this life. So those were some of the main bitter pills I've personally had to swallow as a 28-year-old. There's definitely countless more, but I do encourage, if you have gotten this far and to the end of this video, to really sit with yourselves and reflect on this, because once you have accepted them, your life will be so much better.